y'all, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Katrina and this is Katrina Reads. So your girl might be losing her mind because I could have sworn I did a quick bites about Rain Shout. It's a book by P. Djèlí Clark and I loved it. And I raved about it, and I swore I did a video about it, but I can't find it on in my video files. I can't find it on my channel. I wrote it in my planner as if I had already filmed it. I have a little system to let me know when I filmed something, and I use a color code to tell me when I filmed something, when I've edited it, and when I've uploaded and scheduled it. Well, I have it written as filmed. So the only thing that I can think of is that when I first finished the book, I immediately called my oldest son, who likes kind of the same horror books. We've been on the same train with T. Kingfisher, and we both like the Ballad of Black Tom. And I think because I had a long conversation with him that I thought I recorded a video, a quick bites about Rain Shout. And it was I was looking for it so that I could finish, because like I said, I have it down as filmed. I needed to edit it and put it up to be scheduled for a certain day, and it's nowhere to be found. So this is me actually filming what probably will not be a quick bite, since I'm adding this little addendum and I want the quick bites to be 5 to 6 minutes long. But this is a little book chat about Rain Shout, which I really enjoyed, so much so that I had a long conversation with my son and assumed that I videoed it. So I'm going to read the book description from Goodreads and then tell you why I enjoyed this book so much. A dark fantasy historical novella that gives a supernatural twist to the Ku Klux Klan reign of terror. D.W. Griffith is a sorcerer, and The Birth of a Nation is a spell that drew upon the darkest thoughts and wishes from the heart of America. Now rising in power and prominence, the Klan has a plot to unleash hell on earth. Luckily, Maurice Boudreaux has a magic sword and a head full of tails. When she's not running bootleg whiskey through Prohibition, Georgia, she's fighting monsters she calls Ku Kluxes. She's damn good at it too. But to confront this ongoing evil, she must journey between worlds to face nightmares made flesh and her own demons. Together with a foul-mouthed sharpshooter and a Harlem hellfighter, Maurice sets out to save a world from the hate that consumes it. So this, first of all, the cover is quite striking, and I was thinking, I don't know, I was like, do I want to buy this book? There's certain books that I listen to, like I am more of an audio book. I like to listen to books. I actually even started this channel thinking, okay, let me do this to hold myself accountable, to start reading the thousands of books that I have in my Kindle. I have figured out a way to jerry-rig the Kindle to read to me. So I am hopeless with that. But there are certain books that once I have listened to them on audio and then I find that I love them, I will want to buy them in print to then reread and annotate, because that's easier to annotate, and then you just want the cover. And I don't know why, like, having a copy of something this horrifying is not beautiful. It's striking, but for some reason I still want the copy. I still want it as a real copy. This is a very cinematic reading book. I don't know if that's a correct sentence. It reads cinematically. I could see this as an HBO limited edition show if it's in the right hands. If you saw Lovecraft Country, the group that did that show, I think, would do really well with this show. Or Jordan Peele doing this as a movie. I actually would trust Jordan Peele a little bit more to do this well. It was amazing. I mean, a magic sword. And so what it is that the Ku Klux Klan people are not, as their hate grows, they become demons. And as she's going through and killing them, like underneath the roads, they're not people anymore. And she's using actual like root magic, and when she goes in between worlds. Maurice is the girl. When she goes in between, she's the main character. She has two sidekicks. When she goes between worlds, she meets these like three aunties. I love how our culture gets swept into it, and it's part of the magic. It's part of the it's part of the magic. Just like when you would watch any other kind of magical TV show, there would be three witches or three oracles or whatever. This one, there's three aunties, and one only sings. The other two, just like any other magical show, they give her direction, but it's frustratingly vague or whatever. They also talk about, they give her family and these aunties, her real life family, these aunties also give her direction and history through our African American and African stories and tales. And I was very happy to hear different tales rather than Anansi. Like, we have more tales than that one, and so that was really cool. I gave it 4 stars instead of 5 because it was so different and so unique up into the very last portion of it, and it got a little trite at the end. Kind of like, and this is not spoiling it, just by saying the theme of it, kind of like, oh, love overcomes, your initial motivation of, I don't know, vengeance is not going to, is not the right way to go. Love should always be at the heart of what you're doing. Girl's got a magical sword and is killing folks, and you still want her to love somebody, and after all we've gone through, you talking about love? So I thought that was trite. But again, I know that that's an issue that I have. I think I've said it on this channel a couple times that I tend towards Malcolm X more so than Martin Luther King, even though I love, I really, really studied Martin Luther King, but Martin Luther King became a little more Malcolm X toward the end, just saying. But so I know that's a me thing, that's an issue that I have. So that might not be a detraction from other people, but it's a quick read. It's gorgeous. The audio is great. So one of the issues that one of the things I thought was interesting, I read someone's, I stay on Goodreads. I don't know if you can tell if you're on my channel at all and you've listened to my other reviews or talks or whatever. I don't review talks in my other book talks. You know that I stay on Goodreads. But someone said, let me just read. It is weird how so many books are being published right now that are obviously written well before the current load of crap hit the fan, but which speak to global events with the urgency and a directness that seems quite prophetic. And he goes on to talk about Watchmen, which was another awesome show that depicted the Tulsa race riot, the Tulsa race massacre, and he also talks about Lovecraftian horror, which I immediately connect to the Ballad of Black Tom, which came out well before this. I understand that people get to live in their bubbles, but shit has not just hit the fan. Shit has been hitting the fan since 1619, when those first 20 Africans hit this land. Every time, and I remember when Watchmen opened up with that race massacre, and everybody was talking about how Google searches spiked for the race massacre, and so many people didn't know it was real. And I was just like, there were multiple race massacres, and I even get frustrated at Black people, and then I have to remember our Our education system does this on purpose. It keeps us blind on purpose to our history. And so I see a lot of black people on Twitter, berate other black people when they complain about not getting an Oscar or a Grammy or not getting TV shows. And they're like, well, stop begging for a seat at the table. Go build your own. And there's a graph that goes around, not a graph, I can't think of the word right now, but there's a thing that's been going around online after after Watchmen, and it was showing all of the race massacres that happened during that time period. And if you look up the Red Summer of 1919, how many African Americans were displaced. African Americans have always been building their own tables and building their own, having their own banks, making their own towns, like trying to have their own, like, okay, you don't want us here, we'll go and have our own little town, leave us alone. And people have come and been jealous, angry, just come in and killed and stole over and over and over and over and over again. This is not new. Black Lives Matter, like the organization, it was started back in Ferguson. They were starting to the verbiage came along naturally through the Ferguson fight, and black people and white people hated that verbiage, and it only in 2020 became acceptable and became the worldwide phenomenon that it became, because the world watched George Floyd be killed. It was especially heinous watching him for 8 minutes, being choked to death. And people still found ways to, argue it away, but it was very hard for even people who would have normally argued something away, argued a black person's death away. It was hard to, I don't know. I guess it was just hard for people to deny the inhumanity of that, especially looking into Derek Chauvin's face. I think Derek Chauvin, and I think he represents the Ku Kluxes in Ring Shout. The hatred that begins to take them and they turn into demons. As that man bled, vomited, and everything on the ground, he was saying, this is what drugs do to you. That hatred, that not caring, that played out in this book. And I'm just verklempt, befuddled. But I understand at the same time that as a white man, especially a man, he could walk down the street and think shit has just hit the fan and these books are prophetic. This has been going, it's not prophetic. It's talking about the Ku Klux Klan. It's talking about the birth of the nation. Let me look up when Birth of the Nation was released. Birth of a Nation came out in 1915. It has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. These people run around in blackface and it has a 93%. So I'm just, I didn't mean for this to turn to to answering this guy's review, but it's interesting. So yeah, that's my very rambly book chat about Ring Shout, and it would have been more coherent because I would have had notes somewhere. I must have destroyed the notes. I don't know what happened, other than I thought I talked about it because I talked about it with my son. But if you have made it this far in this shamble of a book chat about Ring Shout, this book deserves a much better book chat. But this is what you're gonna get because I feel like I've done this before. Let's see. I don't know what kind of emoji we can have because we there is no Ku Klux hat, and we're not gonna do that if it was one. So let me figure out what we gonna do for our end of the video emoji. You know what? Maurice had a magical sword, so let's give a sword in honor of Maurice Boudreaux, who was the female badass hero of this here awesome story. I wish I knew how to pronounce his name. It's a pen name because he writes nonfiction, and he uses a different name for when he writes his nonfiction from when he writes his fiction books. And I was like, why did you pick such a difficult name? There's two different facing accents on the top of these letters. Like, why? So anyway, but I'll allow it since this book was so good. Thank you so much for sticking with me through all of this ramble. Thank you for liking, subscribing, ringing that bell. Take care of yourself, be good to yourself, be easy on yourself, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.